Imagine dedicating your life to learning a specific field of biology and then going on to impart your teachings and wisdom to the coming generations. It's the life that many hope for. It is a combination of your passions and life stability with the addition of being able to leave a positive imprint on the world behind you. Life is good. However, one fateful day, everything changes. Your peaceful daily routine is interrupted when a group of armed men silently escort you to an unknown vehicle that heads off to an unknown location. Once you arrive, you realize that these people actually need your help, and being the best at what you do, you comply and take a look at the research before you. Slowly, you start to learn of recent developments in evolution that have never come to pass in human history, and shortly thereafter, you become aware of how these very developments pose a great and impending threat to humanity in its entirety. Once you're filled in on all other relevant details, you understand why you were called in. Everyone, as lost as they are, now look to you for hope. Just like the students you taught that very morning, everyone is looking to you for an answer. A cure, maybe even a vaccine. Anything. And it is at that moment all your years of studies fail you. All that time you spent acquiring knowledge was just to admit, in this moment, how there is no answer, no cure, no vaccine. HBO's The Last of Us is quickly growing to become one of the greatest shows in recent times. With just the second episode having come out, there's still a long way to go before we get to gaze at the fictional world in its entirety. Many already know how the story will come to a close given how popular the show's game counterpart is. So, the fact that the writers have gone to such great lengths in adding additional story beats and plot lines while still ensuring that the main story is front and center is very commendable. One of these extra mini stories is in the form of a trend that's taken place thus far. Before the start of the opening credits in episode 1 and 2, we bear witness to seemingly disconnected scenes from the overarching narrative. They serve to provide more exposition into what life was like before the outbreak and how the cordyceps fungus really came to be such a massive problem. In the first few minutes of episode 2, we're introduced to Ibu Ratna, a professor of mycology that's been called in to help with the investigation taking place to uncover where this newly evolved fungal disease originated from. Like episode 1, the opening instills a form of pure dread within each watcher without the use of any violence or jump scare. The tension builds with each second as we see Ibu Ratna examine the body inch to inch, waiting and expecting the dead woman to rise back up. However, the only real scare we get is when the growing fungus is pulled out. It emphasizes how the destruction yet to come or mass death as a whole isn't the greatest threat, but rather the fact that these once inconsequential organisms can now invade our bodies, effectively warping what we are. The final setting is where the scene gets to bake its cake and eat it too. The first shot is a long one and contains the majority of a debrief between the guard and Ibu Ratna. The shot is a slow zoom in, and as Ibu learns more of how the fungus has spread thus far, the closer she gets to the frame. By the end, when the guard is looking for any answer whatsoever, the shot is shifted from a wide to a medium, isolating Ibu Ratna from the guard and the rest of the world. It indicates how alone she is in this situation and how she has to muster up the courage to say what she is going to.
Tidak ada obat dan tidak ada vaksin.
And just like that, any ounce of hope is wiped clean, and a second shot is finally introduced, only for it to show the noticeable shift in demeanor and now apparent panic on the face of the guard. Still in search of something, anything, he asks what the best alternative is to a vaccine or a cure. And with a stellar acting performance that is able to convey pure loss, Ibu Ratna states that the only solution is to bomb the entire city. The last bit of dialogue goes farther in establishing the threat present than any scene afterwards throughout the episode. What's more is that the fear is only heightened once you realize that this is simply a window into the past. With such extreme measures presented, one would think that'd be enough to save the rest of the world. One city for every other country. But right before the titles roll, we as the audience remember how everything has already gone to shit. Whatever contingency they had inevitably come up with to contain the spread of the virus, it wasn't enough. Ibu Ratna would have died in depression, yes, but at least knowing that she may have helped the greater planet. However, not only was the sacrifice and the sacrifice of all those in her city utterly useless, but futile in the face of the very thing that had got into her nerves just a bit earlier. And that, ladies, gentlemen, and all other spawns of darkness, is the true horror of The Last of Us. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing and leaving a comment down below. I love whatever you guys have to say regarding any of the topics I cover in my videos. In the meantime though, here are 2 videos that YouTube thinks that you'd enjoy. Give them a shot. I bet you won't be disappointed. Until next time, this has been Vexrus, and see ya.